Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pope.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Pope. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. We'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. We'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First Contact Radio. We have arrived.
Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome to First Contact Radio. How you doing today? Welcome to the show. As always, today is Tuesday, the 15th of September, 2015. We have a sun sign in Virgo, just like it has been the last couple days. Virgo, tarot card, the Hermit, teaches us the lesson of patience and timing. Patience and timing. You know, everything in the universe moves according to a time. We have to get in synchronicity. The wave spell that we're talking about at the present time is the wave spell of synchronicity, to remind us everything in life moves according to a certain pace and a timing. So oftentimes we want to embed our ideas onto a timeline of life and expect things to happen in a certain way, and that's not always the case. If we get in synchronicity with the flow of life, then it allows us the opportunity to see what is the best strategy for us. So that's what the Hermit is teaching us, to be patient. Patient, and it's the earth sign, so he's saying be patient in the earth. Be patient with what is taking place in the earth. You have to understand the synchronicities and the rules of the earth, because the earth is different than the fire, the water, the air. The fire, the water, the air aren't moving like the earth. They're moving at a faster vibrational speed. Therefore, the operations of these worlds are different. So the earth, we have to be patient, okay? And then when we're patient, we can hold that lantern up. We can shine that light for others to see, because light is information, okay? Now, the moon sign is Libra. Libra's teaching us the lessons of balance, karma, clearing out the things that we don't need to make room for the things that we do, and allowing life to balance us out, because life knows what we need and what we don't. And so when we allow ourselves to get in synchronicity with what life is helping us to do, then we know what to do. And it's all the process of connectivity, being connected to life. And when we're connected to life, we know what's going on. When we're not connected, we don't know what's going on. The other aspects we're dealing with over the course of today, we could see that we've had a transformation with Pluto. Took place shortly after midnight. As we got closer to the morning here, 5:34 a.m., Mercury, communication, and Libra were in a conjunct. 2 hours ago, 6:07 a.m., Venus added some imagination into the mix. And now as we go through the rest of the day up until 1:27, we're going to be dealing with the transformation and the lessons that come from our karmic balance of transformation. We're going to learn the lessons of saying and communicating things that are going to benefit us, using our imagination. You know, oftentimes in life, it's important that we say things that are going to help us. But one of the things that's equally as important is we don't say the things that are going to hurt us. It's like self-incrimination. We don't want to self-incriminate ourselves by doing things to hurt us, and we do it all the time because we're not paying attention, and oftentimes because we're just on autopilot. Because throughout the course of the day, people say things and do things, and these get lodged in our mind somehow, and so we just operate on a program, spitting out information that the mainstream media gave us, or the news gave us, or some other outlet or source of information. We got to think for ourselves. It's the only way it's going to work. Thinking for ourselves. Now, as we get into this afternoon, we have an opposition between Uranus, unexpected changes, and Libra, karmic balance. Okay, so if we're going to look at that, we're going to look. We don't have the wheel up here today, but they're opposite each other. So expect some sort of unexpected opportunity in the afternoon in ways that we can balance ourselves out. And then tonight, 11:22 p.m., Mars is going to fire us up with some energy of how to find this balance that's taking place in our lives. So as we're getting ready and in part of the world to go to bed, we might have that extra surge of energy that is available to us. Now, in the Jewish calendar, today is 2 Tishri. It's the second day of Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year commemorating Adam and Eve. Daily thought is your child is not like everyone else. Your child is you, and yet your child is not you. Your child is his own person. Our souls are that paradox on a greater scale, the nexus between God and his universe, where his own breath becomes his creation. That is why we are called his children, and we call him our Father. And now let's get a shofar for today. All right, very good. Very good. We'll continue to do that throughout the course of the show, all the way up until we get to Yom Kippur, because that is what we're reminded of. Now, what is the purpose of the shofar? One of the purposes is to remind us that, remember the story where Abraham was told to sacrifice his son, Isaac, and then at the last moment the angel shows up and says, hey, you don't have to do that? That's what this represents, that the ram came forth and was the sacrifice, and therefore as a to commemorate when God showed mercy, not only showing mercy, but where man showed faith. These two work together. God's mercy and man's faith bridged the gap, and together we have the animal, the ram, that came forward to provide the sacrifice. And so we are reminded of that through the blowing of the shofar. Okay? That God is there for us, God is merciful, and that all we have to do is meet his mercy with our faith. And that works out pretty good. 9-tone day. You can see the position right here. It's the wave spell of the Earth, which is about synchronicity and navigation. Today is the solar tone of intention, which is tone number 9. So it's the intention of life force, our instinct, guided by our ability to nurture ourselves. Our hidden power is the questions that we ask. The like-minded energy is understanding the lessons of timelessness and the ability that we have to create things. And our hidden power, or the challenge for today, is our vision, to maintain the vision of where we're going, what we plan on doing. The moon is just in the new moon phase, 5% of the way full, making its upweight to a full moon. Solar wind 509.1 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is at 3, going to get up to a 5 over the next 24 hours. So we got a storm going on. Big coronal hole in the middle. Looks like the sun's opening up. We're going to be feeling wind from that today and tomorrow. M-class flare possibility is at 1%, X-class at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity is dropping. It's going from 35 to 30 in the mid-latitudes, 55 to 45 in the high latitudes. But we do have this storm coming up, so we will see what's going to happen energetically for us down here. And finally, looking up at the sky, as dusk turns tonight, Arcturus twinkles due west. It's getting lower every week. Off to its right in the northwest, the Big Dipper is turning more and more level. All right, there you have it. That is our cosmic weather for today, all the different energies that we're dealing with around us. So plan accordingly as you go out and about into the world. UFO News is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. So today I've got a bunch of stories. First one, alien vessel decloaks near space station on live cam. Here we have UFO. Here we have camera off the space station. This UFO was caught when the light flashes hit just right. It was not far away. It looks to be about 125, 175 meters away from the station. The strange shaped UFO has an orb drone to buzz around and collect data for it. This is the stuff UFO researchers dream of. Streetcap 1 of YouTube caught it. The vessel design is very similar to the kind human might build one day. It looks more primitive design and shape than other UFOs seen near the ISS over the last few years. Okay, so there you go. Very good. Next, we have a story of a U.S. military veteran who claims to have worked with aliens at Nellis Air Force Base. Charles James Hall, a Vietnam veteran, has given a fascinating interview on an Australian news morning show where he claimed that he worked with aliens at Nellis Air Force Base. He was stationed in the Air Force for more than 2 years, and during that period of time, he claims he was in contact with 3 different species of aliens. The ones that he calls white aliens, the gray aliens of Roswell, and a race called the Nordics that look like humans. The white aliens could live up to 700 years, reminding us of the Old Testament and other ancient texts which have mentioned such long lifespans. According to Charles, the U.S. government agreed to give alien temporary residence at the Nellis Air Force Base. The government was willing to give them anything they required for a technology transfer. Here we have the interview. 6 minutes, 50 seconds. I'm going to leave that for you to check it out on your own. Moving on. UFO witnesses share the same UFO sighting decades later. North Central Ohio is very curious about UFO stories. News Journal received a lot of calls after publishing a story on Sunday about a well-known UFO incident that happened in October 1993 in the Mansfield area. An investigator wants to talk to the witnesses about what happened that night. A handful of present and past residents contacted newspaper and mutual UFO investigator Terry Hamilton. No one could identify the aerial object that fall day over 4 decades ago, but many remember the event vividly because it was very strange to them. Brian Stevens, who was 13 at the time, said he saw an orange ball hovering and reflecting the light of the setting sun. Stephen was looking at Westbrook Country Club when he saw the strange floating object. Later that night, Glenn Stout was taking a break from his job at the Mansfield Tire. He was on the back dock standing with some co-workers when he saw an unusual light traveling toward and almost colliding with the helicopter above in the Westbrook Country Club area. After the sighting, he saw a news story about the UFO that interfered with the flight path of an Army Reserve helicopter above Mansfield. He was sure the news was talking about the same incident he had witnessed. On the same month, he claimed that he had received a surprising low bill amounting to $4 only. He wondered whether the object had something to do with it. Judith Ham was outside a home earlier in the day near Pavonia when she noticed a plane flying towards another plane, but the object veered away and vanished. Ham said she nearly screamed because she thought the collision was coming. Ham said she thought that the object was a military aircraft at first, but realized it wasn't because it moved faster than any plane and performed a strange maneuver. Latest Eerie UFO sightings. Although technically a UFO refers to any unidentified flying objects, most people connect the term as synonymous with alien space vehicle. An unidentified flying object is a kind of anomaly inside sky that is not acknowledgeable to the observer. Although a small proportion stays unexplained, nearly all sightings can be a natural phenomena or even man-made objects. On the other side, there are governmental and military personnel claiming that the sightings people are experiencing are just technological advancements tested in secrecy. In the creepy footage recorded by Carol Thrope, there was a fireball hovering over the lake in the night sky. The balls appeared to be orange in the shade of an unusual speed. Are they aliens? Alternatively, a sunlight reflecting a satellite? In every investigation, you need to critically and more thoroughly examine the actual evidence. Bear in mind that the more evidence is being confirmed as unreliable, the greater the doubt as to its validity. According to Carol Thorpe, the strange object is moving in a purposeful line beginning from the south up the north. Based on the footage, the object was shaking and the lights were flickering intermittently. The footage was being recorded in the Grays Lake Village, Illinois, at about 9 p.m., according to the two people about the mysterious that night. Of course, it could be not be a lander or meteor, as they have entirely different looks. Okay, so here's the object in the sky. Curious as to what it might be. All right, moving on. UFO sighting 2015, white shiny disc-shaped object caught hovering over flood-affected Assam. In what could be taken by UFO enthusiasts as aliens watching over human beings affected by nature's fury, a white shiny disc-shaped object was reportedly caught hovering over the flood-affected region of Assam state in India by a photographer. According to description in the incident provided by the photographer Momina Wasim of Educated Unemployed Welfare Society, an NGO to the northeast. Today, a strange white shiny object was caught on a Canon EOS 70D camera. The description said that the EUWS team went to Malthia Te Estate near Mahan in the Burgahath district of Assam, India, on the 4th of September to help to distribute relief materials to people affected by the floods, but the photographer of the team captured a strange object while taking pictures of the people. Being the photographer of the team, I was also very busy taking photos covering every detail of the event. The distribution job was coming to an end when I was clicking, and a white shiny object hovering in the area was captured in the camera. He claimed the flying object was spotted in one of the photos with the people only after returning from relief work. And one last UFO story for today. It has to do with Travis Walton. Fire in the Sky Summit, November 5th through 8th. The historic conference marks 40 years to the day Travis and his fellow crewmen encountered a mysterious flying disc that would change their lives forever. Come hear them tell their stories in person. Hear what happened firsthand from the police officer who met them that night and the investigator who covered the case. Listen to lectures from a wide variety of experts on UFO-related topics and sketch the screening of the new documentary, Travis. 2015 Skyfire Summit is a conference commemorating Travis Walton UFO incident of 1975, which took place near the rural town of Heber, Arizona. The Walton event made international news shortly after 6 members of a logging crew reported to law enforcement that the 7th member of the crew had gone missing. It quickly became apparent to the town media and those involved in the search that the Walton incident was far more than a routine missing persons case. Specifically, the crew reported that travelers went missing after a traumatic incident in which they witnessed a saucer-shaped object hovering over a forest clearing on the side of the dirt road. The crew recalled Travis exiting the truck in which they were traveling. He then approached the hovering object while the frightened crew frantically plied him to return to the vehicle. Within moments, witnesses started that Travis turned to run back to the truck, and he was struck by a bright beam of light emanating from the craft. In a panic and in a fear for their lives, the crew drove away, leaving the injured crew member behind. Returning to the scene a short while later, Travis was nowhere to be found, and no success in the first few days of searching. Law enforcement turned their attention to the possibility that they were dealing with a homicide case. Now the international attention focused on the event. The global media exploded with coverage of the story. Travis was reported as found. Travis's encounter, as told in the 1979 book Fire in the Sky, became the focus of the Hollywood filmmaker Tracy Torme's 1995 film by the same name. From the beginning, Travis Walton's significant and unique close encounter of the fourth kind has continued to intrigue and inspire researchers and historians across many disciplines within ufology. The incident has often been referred to as the most well-documented UFO abduction case in history. The Skyfire Summit will provide a number of opportunities to meet the people involved in the case. Our pre-conference event provides a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity on Thursday, November 5th, the 40th anniversary, to retrace Travis's steps in the woods at the exact incident location. Conference lectures will commence on Friday with the lineup of speakers among the most well-known researchers and experts in ufology. During the 3-day UFO conference, you will hear from those who experienced the Travis Walton case firsthand, as well as the well-respected and recognized lecturers discussing similar UFO incidents and topics. The conference takes place in Overgard, Arizona, inside the All Seasons Resort refurbished stable barn, surrounded by the beautiful Sightings National Forest. Whether you're a seasoned researcher or new to the field, there's something for everyone at the Skyline Summit. Our goal is to make this an annual event with the intent of sharing information regarding legitimate UFO research and experience, ultimately cultivating awareness that we may not be alone in the universe. All right, so if you're out there in Arizona, check that out. I have heard Travis Walton speak and have talked to him and met him in Roswell on a number of occasions. Extremely nice man. Very, very nice man. And when he tells the story about what happened, it's not the same story that the Hollywood version tells. As a matter of fact, he'll be the first one to tell you that Hollywood glorified all of what went on, and a lot of what they showed didn't actually happen. And the most recent lectures I've heard of Travis within the last couple of years, he had added onto his story something he hadn't before, and he said that after much deliberation on what had happened, he feels, according to what he had said during his lecture, that he was not abducted in the way people normally hear about an abduction, but that he was struck by this light and that he was in a dire situation, and they brought him aboard the ship, according to what he believes, in order to save his life, not to abduct him. And that what had happened was somewhat of an accident. And this is what he said during his lecture. So much more to the story. If you get a chance to hear what he says and go check out his lecture, check it out. If you're not able to make that, certainly go online and you can find plenty of information about Travis Walton and what really happened, so you can understand his version from the way in which Hollywood, exaggerated what went on. It's a big difference, really big difference. So there you have it. That is our UFO news for today. I'll be back. Stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Continue on. So this information here I want to show you is definitely important. This is information that was claimed to have been found on the deep web. Now, we've heard the possibility that there's an asteroid or something that's going to hit the planet. And apparently, if we are to believe this, then there was a meeting that was held earlier this year, April 13th through the 17th in Italy, discussing this possibility. And what they were discussing, which they list here you see as classified, was the possibility of an asteroid impact on September 28, 2015, which certainly fits in with some of the concern that we are hearing out there in the world about such an event. It says at the 2015 IIA Planetary Defense Conference, PDC, to be held April 13th through 17th in Italy, the asteroid impact scenario will be presented during the classified meeting. The asteroid was discovered March 13, 2015 at a magnitude of 20.9, declination negative 39 degrees, and heading south. It is assigned to the designation 2015 PDC-H5 by the Minor Planet Center and classified as potentially hazardous asteroid, PHA, based on its orbit. To reinforce the classified nature of the asteroid, we are using a different naming system, something which would never be done for an asteroid we would make publicly known. The asteroid's orbital elements are known fairly accurately, even if the first few days it means distance from the Sun is 177 AU and the orbital eccentricity is 0.49. Its perihelion distance is 0.9 AU and aphelion distance is 2.65 AU. The orbital period is 864 days to the Earth. Orbit as its outbound leg, much like the Chelyabinsk impactor, but unlike Chelyabinsk, the asteroid impact at its ascending node. Next, very little is known about the orbit's physical properties. Its absolute magnitude is estimated to be about h equals 21.3 plus or minus 0.4, which puts the asteroid side roughly at 100 to 500 meters. The large size uncertainty is due to uncertainties in both albedo and H value. A discovery of the asteroid is quite distant from the Earth, about 0.34 AU or 51 million kilometers or 32 million miles away. It is approaching the planet and slowly brightening. Impact is estimated to occur on September 28th near Houston, Texas. A table of the impact circumstances of the points along the corridor can be found here. Now, this is a screenshot, so you're not going to find the link here, but it has here X and Zeta are the OPEC B-plane coordinates. Okay, so on. So impact will cause a tidal wave 20 feet high in deep ocean water, capsizing some small ships. Estimates show a tidal wave will reach American shores in the range of 200 feet to 250 feet in height. The flood zone will reach up to 50 miles inland. Death toll estimates at the time of writing range between 20 million and 100 million people across Americas, Caribbean, Africa, and Europe. Is this real? I don't know. We don't know what really to expect from NASA because they don't give us a straight answer. Never a straight answer, NASA. So, is that real? Is it not? Well, we'll find out on the 28th of September, won't we? And so for those of you who are wondering what is this big asteroid situation that's out there, now you've heard it firsthand, okay? So check out the link, see what you think. Maybe that's just a hoax someone put out. Maybe it's real. I don't know. And we'll find out. All right, let's turn our attention back to Rosh Hashanah and Adam and Eve, which is what we look at during Rosh Hashanah. Here's a page. It says 10 things I wish everyone knew about Adam and Eve. The story of Adam and Eve and their fall into sin has been called the central myth of the West. In my new book, Saving the Original Sinner, I trace the story of Adam's evolution from a minor player in ancient Jewish mythology to the most significant figure in Western culture after Jesus, of course. Now Adam stands at the center of a great controversy over evolution, with geneticists saying that he could not possibly have existed and many Americans insisting they are wrong. Here are 10 curious things about Adam and Eve that may surprise you. Adam, number one, Adam is a generic Hebrew word. In the Hebrew language in which Genesis was written, the word Adam is the generic term for man. Our modern translations make it difficult to see this, especially since Adam has become a popular male name. Similarly, Eve means mother of all living. 2, Eve may not have been Adam's first wife. There are actually 2 creation stories in Genesis, although most readers merge them into one. The story we tend to recall starts with the first verse in the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and then describes the busy 6 days in which God creates something different each day, with humans last, and Eve being created from Adam's rib, followed by a day of rest. But that's not actually what Genesis says. In the first creation story, the one with 6 days and a creator named Yahweh. The woman is created in the same way as the man in the same time, with no hint that she is secondary. This puzzling difference evolved into the story of Lilith, Adam's first wife, who was rejected from Eden for insisting that she should be Adam's equal. Lilith is a shadowy and evolving part of Jewish mythology, mentioned only once in the Bible. By the Middle Ages, however, she was a persistent demon feared by Jewish women because she threatened the fragile lives of newborns. In the second creation story, the one with Eve being created from Adam's rib, a creator named Elohim, God, creates the woman for the man. In the legend of Lilith, Eve was a replacement wife, subservient to Adam and much less demanding. 3. The story of Adam and Eve is not original to the Bible. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, dated well over 1,000 years before Genesis, we read of a talking serpent suggesting immortality and of a man divinely created from soil who lived naked among the animals. A temptress leads the man into sin, after which the two clothe themselves and are expelled from the garden paradise. Sound familiar? 4. The two different stories in Genesis cannot be reconciled. Despite the efforts of creationists like Ken Ham, the two stories can't both be accurate. To reconcile the two accounts, the sixth day of creation, which Ham insists was an ordinary 24-hour day, has to include the following events. Adam is fashioned from the dust of the earth and given the breath of life. Every kind of animal on the planet is brought to Adam, who gives them names corresponding to their characteristics. Adam notices that every animal showed up with a mate and grows lonely as he realizes he has none. God takes sympathy on lowly Adam, puts him in a sleep, fashions a woman from his side. Adam names his wife Woman, and she was taken out of man. Quite a busy day. 5. Adam only appears in the beginning of Genesis. After his brief appearance in the first chapters of Genesis, Adam disappears from the Hebrew Scriptures, what Christians call the Old Testament. Even though sin is a recurring theme, with divine judgment occurring at the flood of Noah, the Tower of Babel, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and elsewhere, Adam is never implicated as the source of that sin. The idea was invented by St. Paul in the New Testament with no Jewish precedent. 6. God didn't destroy Edom after Adam and Eve sinned. When Adam and Eve were expelled from Eden, God did not destroy their former paradise. Instead, God placed cherubim and a flaming sword at the entrance so they could not enter and eat from the tree of life. The continual existence of Eden was widely accepted, and intrepid explorers often took off in search of it. Christopher Columbus wrote home from South America that he had discovered a beautiful paradise he believed was the biblical Eden. 7. Some Christians believe Cain was not Adam's son. The doctrine known as the serpent seed claims that Cain was the offspring of Eve, and the talking serpent that Christians much later identified as Satan. Sin thus entered the human race directly from Satan when he had sex with Eve. And why did he have sex? Because as we know from the story, he raped her. The most well-known church that teaches this doctrine is Sarah Palin's home church in Wasilla, Alaska. 8. The leading figures in the Western world took Adam very seriously. The great Italian poet Dante, author of the Divine Comedy, tried to figure out what language Adam spoke in Eden by inspecting existing languages from mysterious common features. Francis Bacon promoted the science in a way to recover the lost knowledge God had given to Adam. Only in the last couple of centuries have scholars moved away from the idea that Adam and Eve were important historical figures. 9. Many have claimed that Adam had superhuman traits. The incarcerated creationist who calls himself Dr. Dino Kent Hovind claimed that Adam and Eve had hundreds of children who did not need a car because they could run for hundreds of miles without getting tired. Prosperity evangelist Benny Hinn says Adam could fly to the moon. Many believe that Adam was 15 feet tall. Some Christians claim Adam had X-ray vision, allowing him to see into the interior of animals when he was naming them according to their essential features. In dramatic contrast to evolution, these views understand the history of the human race to one being steady deterioration from a perfect being rather than a rise from simpler primates. And 10, geneticists are certain Adam and Eve didn't begin the human race. Geneticists who have mapped the human genome have stated with certainty that the human race could not have consisted of just two people a few 100,000 years ago. This conclusion is actually quite straightforward. The human gene pool simply has too many genes in it today to ever have housed in it just two humans. Geneticists estimate the human race never consisted of less than 1,000 individuals, and they lived long before the biblical Adam and Eve. Very good points here. Look, the story is way more than what we know about Adam and Eve. way more than what we know. And, certainly at that time, humankind obviously had much different traits. We didn't have the same technology. And as we see technology as a benefit, it also is a detriment because many people rely so much on technology that they don't bother to go in to explore anything outside of it. So therefore, their human traits and their abilities become less and less and less. So the ability that people have of something like telepathy in this day and age is far less than it would have been during Adam's time, because there they didn't have the distractions. They were tuned in a different way. Okay? So much more to the story, much, much more to the story than what we know about. Okay, and as we know from the Nag Hammadi library, the story in the Garden of Eden is the story of a fallen one who created humankind in order to enslave God. That was the intent that we get from the Nag Hammadi library, and that the fallen one was the one who was doing this. And later the fallen one was replaced, but this all lends itself to the idea that this wasn't a divine being so much as it was a rebel, someone who rebelled. Because when we hear about the kingdoms that were created, the various realms, you had the mother, the father, from them came the Christ consciousness or the autogens, from them came 4 other realms, and from each of those 4 realms, 3 other realms. Sounds like somewhere in one of those realms there was a rebellion, and that rebellion went off. And that rebellion created this physical world that we're in, and created humankind, and tried to match all the things that God did. Now, there are, and I'm not going to be able to get into this because there's a lot of information here, but here's a link and a page called the Forgotten Books of Eden. As we can see here, we have the first book of Adam and the second book of Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve have 2 books. 2 books. So in the first book of Adam, it says, chapter 1, on the 3rd day God planted in the garden in the east of Eden, the earth, on the border of the world eastward, beyond which towards the rising sun one finds nothing but water, that encompassing the whole world and reaches unto the borders of heaven. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of wafer, clear and pure to the taste, like unto nothing else, so that through the clearness thereof one may look into the depths of the water. And when man washes himself in it, he becomes clean of the cleanliness thereof, and white of its whiteness, even if he were dark. And God created the sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would come of the man. He should make that so after he left the garden, on account of his transgression, men should be born in the earth from among the righteous ones, should die, whose souls God would raise in the last day, when they should return to their flesh, should bathe in the water of the sea, and then all repent of their sins. Kind of sounds like baptism, doesn't it? But when God made Adam out of the garden, he did not place him in the border of the northward, lest he should draw near to the sea of water. And he and Eve washed themselves in it, be cleansed from their sins, forget the transgressions they had committed, and no longer be reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. Then again, as to the southern side of the garden, God was not pleased to let Adam dwell there, because when the wind blew from the north, it would bring him on the southern side the delicious smell of the trees of the garden. Wherefore God did not put Adam there, lest he should smell the sweet smell of those trees, forget his transgression, find consolation for what he had done, take delight in the smell of the trees, and be cleansed from his transgression. Also because God is merciful and of great pity, and governs all things in his way, he alone knows he made our father Adam dwell on the western border of the garden, because on that side of the earth is very broad. And God commanded him to dwell there in a cave, the cave of treasures, below the garden. Okay, and let's jump over to this other one, part 2 here. This is the second book, and I'm just going to read a little bit. Grief-stricken family, Cain marries Luluwa, and they move away. When Luluwa heard Cain's words, she wept and went to her father and mother and told them that Cain had killed his brother Abel. They all cried aloud and lifted their voices and slapped their faces and threw dust upon the heads and rent asunder their garments, and went out and came to the place where Abel was killed. They found him lying in the earth, killed, and beasts around him, while they wept and cried because of this just one. From his body, by reason of his purity, went forth a smell of sweet spices, And Adam carried him, his tears streaming down his face, and went to the cave of treasures, where he laid him and wound him up with sweet spices and myrrh. And Adam and Eve continued by the burial of him in the great grief of 140 days. Abel was 15.5 years old. Cain was 17.5. As for Cain, when the mourning for his brother was ended, he took his sister Luluwa and married her without leave from his father and mother, for they could not keep him from her by reason of their heavy heart. He went down to the bottom of the mountain, away from the garden, near the place where he had killed his brother. And in that place were many fruit trees, forest trees. His sister bare him children, who in their turn began to multiply degrees until they filled that place. But as for Adam and Eve, they came not together after Abel's funeral for 7 years. After this, however, Eve conceived, and while she was child, Adam said to her, "Come, let us take an offering and offer it up unto God, and ask him to give us a fair child, in whom we may find comfort, and whom we may join in marriage to Abel's sister." Then they prepared an offering and brought it up to the altar and offered before the Lord, and began to entreat him to accept their offering, and gave him a good offspring. And God heard Adam and accepted his offering. They worshipped Adam, Eve, their daughter, and came down to the cave of treasures, placed a lamp in it, and burned by night and day before the body of Abel. Then Adam and Eve continued fasting and praying until Eve's time came that she should be delivered. It came that when she said to Adam, "I wish to go to the cave in the rock to bring forth in it." And he said, "Go and take with thee thy daughters to wait for thee, but I will remain in this cave of treasures before the body of my son Abel." Then Eve hearkened to Adam, went, and she and her daughter, but Adam remained in the cave of treasures. Okay, so a lot more to the Cain and Abel story than what we hear of in the Bible. And remember, according to the Nag Hammadi, the reason that Cain and Abel were born was because Yahweh, or Yaldabaoth, raped Eve because he was upset. Now, I don't believe that the God of gods, the all-powerful, all-everything God, would rape anybody. But a being that is in form, well, that's a different story. Part of the story with Adam and Eve kind of gets weird, because if it's just Adam and Eve, that means we all evolved out of incest, out of brothers and sisters getting together, and I don't think that's how it happened. Now, if we were to look at how society degenerates, maybe if there was some of this incestuous behavior, maybe that is why there has been a dumbing down in society because of that. But it certainly makes more sense that there were more than just Adam and Eve, more than just this man and this woman, that there were other beings there that were able to have all of these children and offspring. It makes sense to look at it and understand that there's more to the story. Bottom line of this story, man was created. We're here. The result of this story, still unfolding. What is taking place? We're learning lessons every day. We're learning to grow strong in faith, and we're learning to look past all of the illusions of the world. Those in themselves are challenging, and we just need to keep focused on that. And we see there is a story unfolding, which is nice, because we know that there comes a point where we can change or turn from one chapter to the next. So when this chapter ends, a new one shall certainly begin. All right, over at In5D, here's an article called "How Transmuting Dark Energies Will Heal the Universe." Michelle Walling. If you think about everything that is happening in the world, doesn't it seem to you like you attract more of the dark as you raise your vibration? Perhaps it is because the negative energy yearns for healing just as much as we do. That doesn't include all negative beings, as we know. We are dealing with a few psychopathic beings that are still running the negative harvest matrix program. Some people have said that the big bosses, the archons, have actually left, and all that is left in the middlemen, and they left them here to throw them under the bus. Archons, for those of you who have not heard that term before, in the Nag Hammadi text, Jesus, and all throughout the text is the word archons. Archons, Yaldabaoth would be considered the chief archon, or Yahweh, the chief archon. Okay, they're not demons, but they're not humans. Okay, and these, when we talk about them, it's the dark energies, and all that were created by this being. Okay? Archons. Now, ultimately comes from ultimately comes from the same source. Some of the sources, children have been very naughty and have not played by the rules of the game. These naughty beings are being forced into a corner and being given a choice of changing polarity through healing, or healing by being recycled back through the great central sun. It is possible that some of us volunteer to help some of the negative beings heal that choose it. We know that most of our family and friends who are not awake are simply running their negative programs, and when the programs get dismantled, they will be ready for some healing and redirection of their thoughts and belief systems. Their soul is probably not negative, it's just their hypnotic trance that allows for negative thought forms, and that is the problem. Some of the truly negative souls of the upper middle management of the dark are quickly finding out that they were used and will not get their eternal life that they were promised by their bosses, and they are having to figure out their best possible scenario at this time, and they're becoming desperate. We can help to dismantle hypnotic trance, negative thought form program, by clearing ourselves and connecting with the collective consciousness in order to send high vibrations to transmute all of the negative thought forms. As we heal ourselves, we heal other humans, the planet, the galaxy, the universe, and so on. Okay, here's a nice video of Michelle. It's 9 minutes, 57 seconds in length. Watch the video. She goes over a lot of this information in a lot more detail than an article is able to tell. Okay? So, are you seeing a pattern here? You know, no matter where we are in life, no matter how far along the years get, we're dealing with the same issues. Light versus dark. Good versus evil. War versus peace. There's these two ends, the polarities. So remember, the Kybalion talks about how we can be a one polarity or the other, and we go back and forth. That's what we're doing in life. We keep going from one to the other. Eventually, we're going to learn, because it's like being on a teeter-totter. When somebody jumps off one end, the other side goes all the way up. Both sides need to play nice. We need to find a nice balance, okay? Because one extreme isn't any better than the other extreme. We use examples from both sides. And when we do that, we find ourselves in a nice, good place of balance. All right, today here's another message from Jesus.
Jesus.
Love is always present, like the air you breathe. September 14th, 2015, by John Smallman.
Jesus.
We are one. There is no separation. Deep within you, you know that, and we here in the spiritual realms have been reminding you of this regularly for a very long time. Modern physics knows it, but does not wish to state it quite so simply because it would appear to show that physicists have discovered the existence of God and must therefore become believers. That is something the vast majority of them are not yet ready to admit to. The evidence is clear, very clear, but these physicists are focusing on far more important issues. They are still seeking the smallest and most basic particles in the universe via the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, and yet reality is infinitely vast. Meanwhile, their spiritual thoughts are kept private, and if possible left undisturbed. However, the human collective is way ahead of the game here, because so many books, articles, and documentaries have shown irrefutably that humans are far, far more than chemical reactions and electromagnetic impulses in the brain. The reality of spirit has been demonstrated again and again, and only those who have been chosen to remain in denial of the truth and refuse to admit it. Denial is used because this truth is terrifying for many, and it enables them to dismiss the possibility of spirit as wishful thinking by those who are afraid of death, while themselves maintaining an air of nonchalance about the shocking brevity and seeming lack of meaning of an individual human life. But of course life is never ending, it is eternal, as you well know, and the illusory state of existence you experience as humans on Earth is but a brief dream or nightmare from which you are shortly to awaken. Signs of humanity's awakening are evident all across the world as love, shelter, food, and resettling assistance is offered again and again, to immigrants fleeing repressive regimes and war zones. Yes, humanity is most definitely very close to awakening, and nothing and no one can prevent it from happening. You, the light holders and light workers who read this and other channeled messages from the spiritual realms, absolutely know this and are doing essential work in bringing it about. And that work is simply your constant intent to be loving in every moment of your lives. The flood of love that you are creating and extending is like reality, vast. When doubts arise for you as a result, for instance, of mainstream news reports of the intolerable suffering of so many, due to war and other man-made atrocities, or due to extreme weather, fire, earthquakes, or volcanic activity, remind yourselves of the work you are doing and of its inevitable success. Then, once more, strengthen your intent to send love to all those on your lovely planet who are in need and who are suffering, because that is the most powerful and effective thing you can do, and it is most powerful because it is the will of God being put into practice by all of you. As I said above, all are one. Therefore helping another is helping yourself. However, the illusion, the realm of the ego, strongly suggests that taking care of the self to the exclusion of others is the only sane way to live, while perhaps offering a certain amount of compassion and charity to others if it does not demand too much of your personal limited resources. The reasoning behind that attitude, apart from a strong belief in the reality of the illusion, is the fear of scarcity that is separation and the ensuing lack of love experienced in that state. As you have been told so often, there is only love, because God is love, and all that exists is contained within God, who is the infinitely vast reality, the energy field from which all life flows, the source. So each and every sentient being is the same as God, just as every individual drop of water anywhere on the planet is identical to all the rivers, lakes, and oceans combined. There is no difference between them. Of course, the planet's water has been severely contaminated in many places, but it is still water, much as humanity's attitudes have been contaminated by its apparent separation from source, and so the purity of love seems lacking. As guardians of planet Earth, humanity is responsible for cleaning up the damage it has caused and restoring it to its natural state. More and more of you are becoming aware of this grave responsibility and are taking steps to do so. That is love in action. Love, your natural state, cannot be contained, but it has been hidden or denied and then forgotten because of your choice to experience separation from God and therefore from one another. When love is absent, great fear arises and peace is impossible between either individuals or nations. Psychology being but a recent advance in starting to understand the basic essential non-physical needs of humans, learned that self-respect and self-acceptance are essential aspects of a well-balanced and healthy individual. In other words, to love oneself is essential for good health. When an individual truly loves the self with which it identifies, that love then flows outwards to embrace all life, and that is your path to awakening. Psychology is really only following along behind the ongoing human awakening process and observing its effects. Yes, it can be very helpful to those trapped in fear, loathing, and self-hatred, helping them to see that those deeply ingrained beliefs are utterly unwarranted, and by then assisting them to open themselves to the fact that they deserve and are entitled to love. However, it is due to the ever-increasing intensity of the power of the tsunami of love that your work is causing, that is bringing humanity rapidly forward to its most gloriously anticipated moment of awakening. Love is always present, like the air you breathe, but you all have the choice to accept or reject it, and the numbers now openly accepting and indeed embracing it are increasing daily, bringing humanity to the tipping point, the point at which the collective, having already chosen to awaken, remembers that choice, and releases its hold on the illusion. It is rather as though someone who is drowning, because they are holding on to some heavy artifact they dearly value and have carried with them from a sinking ship, suddenly lets go of it because they can no longer breathe, and released from their burden, rockets to the surface and fills their lungs with desperately needed air. Then realization finally dawns that only life has lasting value. Rejoice therefore in the knowledge that the life force that powers your human vehicles is love, that it is indeed eternal, and that it can never be snuffed out. Your loving brother, Jesus.
All right. Great message. Great message. Love is everywhere. I mean, that's really the key, isn't it? Isn't that the purpose for what this life is about? Because without love, I mean, what's the point? What's the point? Warrior of Light, message for today, page 107. The Warrior of Light knows the value of persistence and of courage. Often during combat, he receives blows that he was not expecting, and he realizes that during the war, his enemy is bound to win some of the battles. When this happens, he weeps bitter tears and rests in order to recover his energies a little, but he immediately resumes his battle for his dreams. The longer he remains away, the more likely he is to feel weak, fearful, and intimidated. When a horseman falls off his horse, if he does not remount immediately, he will never have the courage to do so again. Brings us to our meditation. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. And another breath. And exhale. Now, as you continue to breathe in and out, just feel the love that exists within the breath. Feel this love that exists through every cell of your body. For it is love that keeps all things connected and tied together. And as you think about and are aware of the love within you, you find that there is more than you realize. That this love fills your entire being and is the glue that holds all things together. Therefore, we know that God is love. So we imagine ourselves filled with this love that is overflowing, and we just imagine sending this love out into the world because we know that there is an abundance. So we share. And no matter how much love we share with the world, our amount of love can never be dissipated. So we share this love, and we just imagine the color green like the heart chakra moving around the planet, covering the planet with love, absorbing into each and every individual on the planet, and changing that person for the better. So let's just imagine this day with all of the challenges and concerns about what is going on in the world. Let's just imagine love. And let's just imagine the healing influence that it has upon our lives. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey of love, and let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, come back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's our show for today. Thank you very much for being here. Please go back, check out the links. There's some videos to watch and kind of get caught up on stuff. There's more information on the first and second book of Adam and Eve. Enjoy this second day of Rosh Hashanah, and remembering of the humans that we are and the humanness that we all have to share with each other. There's a lot to learn there. Definitely a lot to learn. So let's just appreciate what we are, who we are, and what we're learning. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon. I love you. Peace. Keep loving each other. And I'm out of here.